Do you love God? That's the question. Do you love God? Fools disobey God. That's what's on the shirt. Do you love God? I have got the book, and I can see and I can read. And I am sharing with you today what I have learned. God spoke to Adam. God spoke to Eve. And God spoke to the devil. Adam and Eve spoke to God. I am looking in Genesis, and there's no record in Genesis where God says anything to the devil. I mean, yes, in Genesis, God does address the devil, but the devil does not speak. He hasn't spoken to anyone but Eve. That's who the devil had spoken to. Now, we have come to this point. The man had relations with his wife. The only thing that God had created so that he could, what do you call it? Procreate, maybe? Reproduce after its kind. All of the birds produce or reproduce after their kind. So did the animals. There was no altering genetics in Adam's day. And Adam's day was a long time ago. But Adam did have relations with his wife, and she did conceive, and she had 2 sons. One named Cain, one named Abel. Cain and Abel. And we're going to see that God speaks to Cain. There is no record of God talking to Abel. But Abel is definitely a son of Adam. And I am sure that God talked to them both. And they both saw God. And after, so many days, they were grown up enough, and they were doing things for their father, Adam. And they would do things for Eve. These 2 sons are now going to bring something to God. The man and his wife had the 2 sons. And it came about in the course of time that Cain brought an offering to the Lord of the fruit of the ground, and Abel on his part also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of their fat portions. And God received from both of the sons of Adam. And God, it says, had regards. Now you can make up your own mind what had regards for. I'm just going to say God liked what he ate. And he liked from what Abel brought more so than what Cain had brought. And Cain became angry. Now, there we have the first angry man. Cain has become angry because God liked meat. That's what it says. Abel, on his part, brought from the firstlings of his flock and of their fat portions. What do you think he did? Just brought it up there and, brought it to God and let him smell of it? No, that's not what happened. God is going to eat with them, have a meal. So we know that God can eat if he so desires. He can. God can eat. And the Lord, that's God, said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen?" God's seen something now that he hadn't seen before. Yep. He sees Cain and he sees Abel. And he sees that one of them is angry. And God tells Cain, if you do well, you won't be angry. If you do well, you won't be angry. You won't be upset. You won't be mad. But he said, if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you must master it. That's what God told the man that's angry. I have read that you can be angry and sin not. I have. I mean, it's obvious right here. This man is angry. He is upset. And sin is crouching at the door. And God has told him that he must master it. Now, what does master it mean? Maybe you can figure that out. And Cain told Abel, his brother. Cain said something to Abel, his brother. They spoke. And they were speaking the same language that God was speaking. They understood each other. They could understand God. God could understand them. There's no problem here with who understands who. And it came about when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. Now we have the first dead man. There has been no dead man until Cain rose up and killed his brother. And now we have a dead man. What's going to happen now that we have a dead man? God is not going to deal with Adam about this, or Eve. Adam nor Eve has killed, but Cain has killed his brother. And God had regard for something that Abel had brought to him. And now we see that Abel is dead because Cain has killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel your brother?" He said, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" That wasn't the smartest thing he could have done that day, folks. That was not it. That wasn't it, okay? It wasn't. And the Lord said to Cain, "What have you done?" And the Lord goes on and says to Cain, "The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground." Oh my goodness. His blood is crying to God from the ground, and God can hear it. Isn't that something? And now you were cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. God didn't have to go ask Adam what Cain had done. God did not have to go ask Eve anything. God is talking to Cain here. And we have God continuing to speak to Cain. When you cultivate the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. You shall be a vagrant and a wanderer on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is too great to bear." How many of you know it wasn't too great for him to bear? But that's what he told the Lord God, creator of Adam. And he says, or I have seen it written, "Behold, thou hast driven me this day from the face of the ground, and from thy face I shall be hidden. And I shall be a vagrant and a wanderer on the earth. And it shall come about that whoever finds me will kill me." That's what Cain thought. The Lord said to him, "Whoever kills Cain, vengeance will be taken on him sevenfold." Not by Adam, not by Eve. That's what God said. And the Lord appointed a sign for Cain, lest anyone finding him should slay him. That means God made it known to everyone. There weren't a whole lot of people, but the angels were aware of this fact. God had made them aware. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And Cain has a wife. And he has relations with his wife. And they have offspring. That's what happens. And you can find out that Adam had relations with his wife, Eve, again. And she gave birth to a son who was named Seth. And she said, "God has appointed me another offspring in place of Abel, for Cain killed him. And to Seth, to him also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh." Men began to call upon the name of the Lord.